But you guys want the 6-week update on the kickoff, don't you? So I got the numbers in my head if you want them. So we're holding steady at about double the rate right now. So we're at 32% return rate, up from 15 from last year. But no, all kidding aside, I got the 6-week update from the league, the analytical kind of statistical data. Yeah, we are. I mean, we're right about double. I mean, there's 300 plus returns this year, where last year there was like 150 something, 160 through 6 weeks. There's been 11 plus or 11 40 plus yard returns. Only about 10% of the returns right now are getting over the 30-yard line, which is kind of so about 90% of them are not, through the return. So the average start drive on all the kickoffs is a 29.3. The after return is 27.7. So a lot of interesting numbers. I don't have a tangible number on the injury rates, but I know from the league side of things that the injury rates through 6 weeks are very, very favorable. So that's a positive. I'm sure some of you saw Commissioner Goodell's comments this past week about it. And so so again, it's early, but through 6 weeks, there's been a lot of positive things. We've had a couple touchdowns, but probably not as many big plays as I mentioned last week as everybody would have thought. And so that's kind of where it stands right now. So.
What's the challenge of having to replace an all-pro returner potentially this week?
Yeah. Well, hey, let's see what happens. But I think that's the good news about having a bunch of guys that we've trained. I mean, you guys have been to all the training camp practices, and so all those running backs, all those receivers, a bunch of DBs. Between a lot of guys in the building that have at least experience doing it, and so we'll have to see where the actives and inactives lay, see what happens with Shaheed, see what his situation ends up being, and. But if that ends up being the case, obviously he's been a really productive player. But between Cedric, Kool-Aid's been a guy that's had some really good numbers in college. He's done it. Tipton, we got a number of guys on the practice squad. You saw we just signed Dante Pettis. We got Jermaine Jackson. Alontae Taylor's done it. Kick return stuff. Obviously you guys know Jamal. If Kendra got elevated, he's another guy. So there's a stable of guys there. So obviously you saw we threw Tipton back there last week. With Shaheed. So, just a number of guys. And as I've said many, many times before, the more guys you could train and the more guys you have the ability to do that when you play the course of throughout an entire season. You guys have been following this thing long enough to know that you're never going to probably make it through the whole entire season with one guy. So we'll see what happens. We'll kind of keep monitoring that. But I know a bunch of guys are just out there catching post-practice. So.
You had kind of foreshadowed the change from Jamal Williams to somebody else and it was Mason Tipton this past week. What was it about the particular matchup or about Tipton maybe that, kind of brought that on? Yeah,
actually we had like 15 guys in the huddle. We had a bunch of returners ready to go, and it was really going to depend on the call, the matchups, the personnel that they have on the field. A lot of times will determine kind of their formation, their personnel, our call, and so where they're kicking the ball, is it deep, is it short, and so. We actually had a bunch of guys ready to go this week in the huddle. Mims is another guy that obviously did it in the preseason that's done it before too, so he was ready to go. So it'll really be. I think we're going to kind of go with a committee approach moving forward with that. So we'll have multiple guys ready, and sometimes if it's the last play of the half, you may have a different call if it's early, and so all that factors in.
A few of those touchbacks to the 20. Is that just guys getting used to the new rules? Or?
Man, we've had some bad luck with that. We really have. I think there's been 10 of them this year total, and we've had 3 of them against us. The one in the Dallas game where their kicker just mishit the ball, Taysom kind of let it roll. I think Sheed kind of misjudged the one the other day, and the ball lands literally on the half-yard line. So we want to catch that ball. The balls that are landing in the landing zone, we want to catch. And then we had the one they hit late that hit the pylon. I mean, we've had some little bit of bad luck there. So I think it's a little bit of circumstance, a little bit of coincidence. But when that ball lands in the landing zone, we really like to field that ball. Obviously, we don't want to just give up the 20-yard line.
Yeah. You're the only coordinator, I guess, that's worked with Sean Payton. What are like some of the challenges of just going up against someone like him?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I knew Sean. Fairly well before I got here, but the thing that I was really impressed with when I got here, there's a lot of head coaches, especially offensive head coaches. No, I'm not trying to offend anybody here, but there's a lot of guys that don't maybe know all the ins and outs, special teams. I was really impressed with Sean's overall knowledge, not just on offense, but really the entire game. I think obviously, there's been some great special teams. Long before I got here, he had some great special teams that he coached in terms of being, as being a head coach. I'll tell you what, Sean, working for him, he was obviously a detail-oriented guy, but we had some great conversations during some games about different situations and things like that. But I obviously special teams. There's a lot of it has to do with game management. The fourth down stuff and end of game situations and things like that. So I just always recall our conversations with that, and certainly Sean's not afraid to be aggressive. I think that's one of the things we've talked to our team about Thursday night. He's always been an aggressive coach. The good news is we can't get an ambush kick. So can't have that one. That's out. He can thank me for that, but that's out the gate, or out the window rather. But all kidding aside, I mean, listen, Sean's always been an aggressive approach guy, so we have to have great situational awareness, on our punt return stuff, on our field goal block, reverses, throwbacks, all those kind of gadget type plays that he's not afraid and hasn't been afraid to run throughout the years. But no, I certainly have a great deal of respect for Sean. He's the reason I'm here. And so I'm very, very grateful for that, the opportunity he gave me here with the Saints.
Everyone kind of has a game day Sean story. Is there any stories that you can actually share? Just of something maybe that he thought you messed up?
I actually have a great one. And everybody has a game day Sean story. Everybody. More than one. My first year here, we were playing Dallas. You might remember we won the game 12-10. And so end of the game, we're up by 2. It's late in the game. I think it was a 4th and 3. I want to say there was under 5 minutes to go. And so I kept the defense on the field because I was afraid that Dallas was going to maybe potentially fake a punt there. And he got really, really mad at me. I mean, we got into a screaming match. He probably said some things he didn't want to say. I definitely say some things that I regretted saying. And so the next day, we won the game. The next day, here we are back in the office, and I'm like, I just got here. It was like I think that was the second or third game of the year of my first year here. So I'm like, man. So I texted him. I said, Coach, when you get a minute today, can we talk? So 45 seconds later, he's in my doorway, and he said, Riz, what's up? And I said, I got up hey, Coach, about yesterday. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, the situation there at the end of the game. He's like, no, you were right. You were right. He's like, that's why you texted me? So I think the best part about Sean is he has game day amnesia. I think for the 3 hours of the game, you talk about a guy that's Jekyll Hyde. I have the utmost respect for him as a coach, but he is a Jekyll Hyde, person. And so from whatever time that 3 hour window is, and it's funny because when I was coming here, Dan Campbell told me the same thing. Because I had worked with Dan, obviously, in Miami. And so when I was coming here, Dan said, listen, you're going to love working for Sean, all the pros and then. But just by the way, the 3 hours on game day. And so we had, I think everyone has those game day stories about him. But to his credit, he's got amnesia. When it's over, it's over. Next day, move on. And that's a credit to him because there's no grudges and all that. We were just actually laughing about a couple of those stories today. There was one particular coach, he said, I think I probably got fired about 20 times during the games throughout my course of working for Sean. I think they've at least at 20. I won't name the name, so we were laughing about him. And so anyway, I think everyone's got one of those stories for sure.
When you talk about Sean on game day, last year the highlights were him yelling at Russell Wilson. A couple weeks ago was yelling at Bo Nix. You see those highlights, say, oh, that's Sean or something like that?
Well, if you watch Sean on game day, whether it was here or in Denver, he has kind of that halo where no one goes in it. Okay. Remember the old halo rule on the punt returns? I think if you watch Sean, no one will go near him because if you're within an earshot, you're going to get it. So I think everyone's going to get it. But again, all kidding aside, I think Sean, the thing he does is he's very detail oriented. He's not going to let anything slide. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's a coordinator, quarterback, defensive captain. It doesn't matter who it is. And so I think that he's earned a lot of people's respect throughout there because he's not going to let just something go. Doesn't matter if you're up by 40, down by 40, tight game. He's going to make sure he gets his point across, gets it coached. And like I said, the most impressive thing about him is he gets it, makes the point, moves on. And so, but yeah, I think everybody's got.
Do you have to be wired the right way to work with him though?
I don't know. I've been yelled at plenty of times, so I'm fine. But I think in a certain way, I think as soon as you understand the way Sean operates, and it's always for the greater good of the team, and you make the correction and move on. But that halo does exist, I'm telling you. Watch the sideline.
Darren, Cam said yesterday he thinks this is going to be a big game for Sean. I mean, how do you think he's going to approach this game?
Knowing Sean, he probably loves the fact that it's a short week. It's to make it all about business. I think if it was a Sunday night or Monday night game where you had all week and all the fanfare, I think he's probably happy as heck that it's a short window. No different than us, and we got to move on. We got to flush this past game as well. And so I think. I read a couple of the comments, but I'm sure he's going to try to make it all about the game and less about him, and that bodes well for a short week and make it just about the football aspect of it. But at the same time, yeah, it's probably going to be a heck of a lot different for him to be in the visiting locker room. I don't know if he's ever even been in that locker room, so I don't know if he's ever even walked over there. So it's going to be a little bit different, opposite sideline, all that stuff. So. But again, once that first kickoff gets kicked, and it's going to be all about the X's and the O's. But listen, I can't even imagine, because the one story I shared with Sean the day that he stepped down from here was I went to dinner that night, and I was at dinner by myself, and I heard there was a TV in the corner, and there was a family there. There was a father, mom, and two boys. And Sean came on, and the guy didn't know who I was, and he tapped his son on the shoulder, and he pointed at the TV, and he said, "That guy changed this city." And so the next day I came in, I told Sean that story. I said, that's a guy and so that's just, that's a lot of people, obviously very revered, done an unbelievable job here, and so there's going to be all those emotions. So, but again, I told you that 3-hour window, once that 3-hour window starts, he's going to make it all about the game and all about coaching. So.
On the flip side, do you get a sense of this game moving a little bit more to DA just because of?
I don't, and I think a little bit of it is right now we got to worry about our situation. We're coming off Sunday. We got to obviously going through a little adversity as a team right now. Everyone faces it at some point. We're in the middle of it, and it doesn't matter who we're playing. And so, I think we're making it more about us, and that's really the message right now. We got to get some things corrected ourselves and not get caught up in the distractions.
What would you like about the Shaheed return? What will on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I like the 10 other guys. I mean, Shaheed made an unbelievable play, but you never do that on your own. He made the first couple of guys miss by himself, for no doubt about it. The first two guys down the field, he stuck them and split them. And then if you watch the rest of the other 10 guys working their butts off on that play, it was pretty impressive. Rico Payton and JT Gray had their gunner locked up for about 5 minutes, it seemed like. We had some really good blocks at the front line, and then some really good finishes. Orgy had a really good finish on his guy. There was, John Abram came back around and kind of, we call those the touchdown block. You can get a 15, 20-yard return, but those last few blocks, those finishes are the touchdown blocks. And so we had a few of those. And so that was really that's the thing I was proud of the most is watching. I'm watching the 10 other guys. I know she with the ball in his hand is going to make things happen. But obviously getting that explosive play, and that's the thing I like the most about it.
You have a game breaker like him. You want him. I know he had an issue in Atlanta, but is that part of the mindset you always want him thinking?
You got to have an aggressive mentality. I think I might have mentioned I've never been around a good returner that hasn't put the ball on the ground a couple times. You go back and look at. No one remembers Devin Hester's fumbles, right? He put the ball on the ground a lot. He had a lot of muffs. He had a lot of fumbles, but no one remembers those because you just remember the good ones. And so you got to have an aggressive mentality. It's like a three-point shooter. No one remembers the 10 three-pointers that Steph Curry missed in the Olympics. They just remember all the ones he made. And you just got shooters got to shoot, and that's kind of like a returner. You got to keep firing your gun, aggressive. You're going to make a play, and so you got to have a short memory. You got to flush that play in Atlanta. You got to move on, and so I don't want him to ever lose that aggressive mentality.
How much do you prepare for the Shaheed dance celebration?
He didn't know what the heck I was doing, so I thought I was going to have this great moment, and he was like, "What are you doing?" So I guess my dancing skills. I'm more the '80s guy, I'm still doing the Cabbage Patch and the sprinkler. So I think I'm way out. So anyhow, and the Running Man maybe on a good day. So anyhow, I appreciate you guys. Thanks.